Hi everyone, this is Andrew. Today I'll do my 6th JavaScript tutorial and we'll be continuing on from our 5th one where we were creating a Pathfinder RPG ability score generator. So you can go ahead and download the last one or continue on where you left off from. So that should be the 5th tutorial. Let's open that up, have a quick look. So remember we had 5 methods that we've implemented: standard, classic, heroic, dice pool 24 and dice pool 28. Today we're going to implement the last method for generating ability scores, and that is this one here, the purchase method. So let's quickly read that. Each character receives a number of points to spend on increasing his basic attributes. So that would be these points here. So 10, 15, 20 or 25. In this method, all attributes start at a base of 10. A character can increase an individual score by spending some of his points. Likewise, he can gain more points to spend on other scores by decreasing one or more of his ability scores. No score can be reduced below 7 or raised above 18 using this method. See table ability score costs. That's this one here. So depending on what score you so 10 is the base, it has 0. And then you can reduce it to get, say, 4 points here, or you can increase it up to 18, which is very expensive, 17 points. Okay, after all the points are spent, apply any racial modifiers the character might have. The number of points you have to spend using the purchase method depends on the type of campaign. The standard value for a character is 15 points, so they're saying this is the standard value. Average non-player characters are typically built using as few as 3. Okay, blah blah blah. The purchase method emphasizes player choice and creates equally balanced characters. This system is typically used for organized play events. Oh, okay. Righto, well, let's go ahead and create these. So each character receives a number of points to spend on his basic attributes. Okay, I think that's probably all we need to know, and we'll just put in the actual points into that statement. So go to your enum for dice, and we'll have to create 4 methods, won't we? Because there's 4 lots of points that we could choose from. So purchase, just as the same way that we've done it for dice pool, we've got dice pool 24, we'll just have purchase 10. So let's rephrase this a little. So you receive, actually let's put in the description. So this is for 10 points, it's considered low fantasy. So let's put that in first, low fantasy. You receive 10 points to spend on increasing your basic attributes. That looks okay. Then there's a 15, a 20, and a 25. And they're titled Standard Fantasy, High Fantasy, Epic Fantasy. So Standard Fantasy, High Fantasy, and Epic Fantasy. And the only difference being the number of points. 20 points and 25 points. Remembering that we need commas here. Okie dokie, so purchase 10, low fantasy, you receive 10 points to spend on increasing your basic attributes. You receive 15 points. Okay, that looks okay. Go down to your HTML and we'll put in the new radio buttons. So in the same vein as we've done for this one, we can just do it for each of these. So purchase 10. Set dice, just change that to the new enum value, purchase 10, and go ahead and duplicate that. Purchase 15, purchase 20, purchase 25. That looks good. Let's test it. Right, so they're all there. Yep, standard fantasy, high fantasy, epic fantasy, that corresponds with that, doesn't it? High fantasy is 20. Yep. The only thing I would say is that having these stringed out, having all these radio buttons stringed out one after another doesn't look very nice. So how about we break them into sort of groups? So standard, classic and heroic, they're kind of similar, aren't they? So let's put a break in there. Dice pool 24 and dice pool 28, obviously they're related, so put a break in there. And then all these purchase methods, they can go on a separate line. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. So we've got the standard, classic and heroic at the top. Then we've got our dice pool methods on the next line. Then we have our purchase methods. Remember, these are all still linked, these radio buttons, they're just displaying on separate lines. Great. Right, next we want to set the dice for them, don't we? Actually, before we go ahead and do that, what do we need? So dice pool requires a pool column. Heroic and all that just require the dice column. So these top three just require a dice column. The next two require a pool column. What does purchase require? Well, technically, purchases don't require dice, do they? Because we're just purchasing. Actually, we don't even need to roll, so we shouldn't even show that roll button. I mean, we could grey it out, like in similar way that we've grayed it out here. But the problem with graying out something means that potentially you can enable it. So to make it very clear, we should just hide that button. We should not have a dice column, or we should hide that dice column, and instead we should have a purchase column. So let's go ahead and make that. So we'll have a purchase column. It'll be borderless too. Pool column. The dice column. We should probably separate because we'll be hiding the dice column. Now the dice column is the third column, so go ahead and label that. Give it an ID because we'll have to do something with that. We'll have to hide it. How about we make a new group? We'll make a new col group which will contain just our purchase. It'll just contain our purchase columns. So we'll have our the actual purchase where we make our purchase. We'll just don't really need to give it any ID or anything because we can use this. ID will equal purchase purchase columns. So there'll be the first one where the player actually adjusts or spends their points. I'm thinking, because I put columns because I'm thinking we need some extra information here. Because if you look up here, there's all of this, isn't there? So how about we output that in our table? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 of them, so that would fit. If you look at this, we could fit, there's 6 of these, aren't there? So we could put them into 2 columns. So how about over 2 columns? So col span equals 2. We'll put that display table just to show how much points everything costs, because there's no real pattern to these if you have a look. It's kind of tens, okay? Then you go -1, -2, then suddenly jump to -4. Now going up, you go +1, +2, +3, then you jump 2 here, you jump 2 here, jump 3, jump 3, jump 4. There's a kind of a pattern, but it's not consistent. So I think we need to put that explicitly. Okay, so we've got this purchase header. Now I put a col span 2 purchase column. How about we have between the purchase column and the table we'll have a a blank column. So let's call that, let's give it a class. or an ID, it doesn't really matter. ID will equal blank column. So the blank column will have no table head, right? And then we'll have, now this one will span over 2, so put a col span there. Col span equals 2. It'll be borderless, won't it? No, actually, we want to give it, how about we call it, let's have a look at that table. Score costs. Now we're going to put these into the single cell, so we'll find a way to do that. Maybe just, for example, score, and then in brackets, the cost. That will do. Close our table head. Good. Now the next column will be the actual purchase. So the purchase we'll do in the similar vein, so in the same vein as what we've done for our pool. We'll be using those number pickers. So the type will be of number, except we'll call this strength purchase. And instead of change pool, we'll say, well, I'll keep it simple. Change purchase. Purchase. Now the minimum, they did talk about that, didn't they? Or on this table, according to this table, it's 7 and 18, and I think they mentioned that in the text. No score can be reduced below 7 or raised above 18 using this method. So we've got some hard and fast rules here. So the minimum will be 7, the maximum will be 18. Does that look good? Class borderless. Oh, hang on. We've got a TD in here. That's just class borderless, don't we? That's for the blank column. Oh no, sorry. That comes after. Class equals yeah, this will be the empty borderless. This will be the empty column. And now we'll put our actual data. So we'll be putting this in. Now remembering we'll be doing this over 2 columns, so we'll have that first, and then we'll have that one on the following. We'll shift all of these up to here in effect, won't we? So the first row will be 7 minus 4, 13, 3. Class borderless, yep, and then we'll have 7, now according to our header, so 7 minus 4 will be on and then 13, 3, wasn't it? Okay, so that looks good. Just to confirm this, so we've got an input strength purchase, it's of type number. It'll change the purchase using the strength. Minimum 7, max 18. That looks good. So we're going to copy and paste all of that into each of the attributes, or abilities, whatever they call them. Strength. Okay, so this will be Dex. I'll update these last. I'll just get these updated first. Con int int whiz char. That's it. Okay, so we've got 7 and 13 here. So this will be 8 and minus 2. This will be 14 and 5, I believe it is. So 8 minus 2, 14, 5. 8 minus 2, 14, 5. The next one's minus 1, 7. 9 is minus 1. 15 is 7. So this will be 10 and 16. Now 10 is nothing, isn't it? 10 is nothing. 16 will be 10. Wisdom, this will be 11, which is just 1. 17, I think we have to add 3 to that, don't we? So it'll be 13, not 33. 16, sorry, 11 and 17, 1 and 3, 1 and 13. Yeah, and then the last one's 2 and 17. Right, let's take a look at that. Remembering we haven't set up any logic to hide any of this yet, so just forget about that for the time being. Looking okay. Just one that's got a border on it, that blank column, and it's got no width, has it? So it's kind of useless to us. So we'll have to go ahead and give that some width. Otherwise the score, the table over here looks okay. 7 minus 4, 8 minus 2. It gives the player some information, how much each of the scores cost. Right, so let's go and fix up that header. So this header here has to be borderless too. And that column, so this blank column, so it's got ID blank column, we'll give some CSS to give it some width. So it's a ID blank column. Just set its width property. The same way that we've done here. You can go ahead and select a number. We'll try 3M, see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that's okay. Just off to the right of the table, there's a score. Now remembering this will only show when they hit one of these purchase methods. So that should be good. Now, what do we need to do? Well, we don't want to show any of this purchase stuff, do we? Normally. So in our set dice method, remembering when they select the radio button, it goes to set dice. So zoom up to that, set dice, here we go. So handle dice pool methods. Now we want to put, so currently we have if it equals dice pools, like dice pool 24 or dice pool 28, do that. Else, I'd like to put another if else in there actually, just to show the purchase stuff. So these ones I think we'll set as our standard. We'll pull them out and put them up here. So we'll call the base widget and column visibility. So this is for everything except dice pools and purchases. We don't really need to explicitly say enable the roll button, so we'll just put that there, hide the dice pool column. We can add to that later if we need to hide other things or show other things. So how about we just, disable the roll button. Handle dice pool method. I'll just put that in caps so I can easily see it. dice pool widget visibility. Just tidying up some of this. A lot of this stuff was just when we were first programming it, just to make it clear what we were doing. Get pool maximum, that's okay. Now this one, we'll do a similar thing. Handle purchase methods. And we'll put an if in there. So an else if. Else if dice equals purchase 10, purchase 15, purchase 20, or purchase 25. So any of those methods, let's do something similar to this. Okay, so purchase method widget visibility. So what do we want to do? Now, I mentioned we don't want to see that roll button, do we? Because there's no need to roll in this. So let's hide that or get rid of it completely. So roll button, we want to set its display to none. Right? Now because we've set that to, we've completely hidden it there, like the user could switch back to a different method. So in our standard, so in our base widget and column visibility, we want to set display to inline, I believe it is the default. Okay, so only in purchase will it hide that. What else? The pool column, that's irrelevant, but the dice column, now we have gone ahead and labeled that, haven't we? The dice column here, the dice column we do not want to see because there are no dice in this method, in the purchase method. So the dice column, the visibility equals visible. Now we have to do the opposite in the standard. So the dice column visibility will be, hang on, we want to see it normally, and in this one we want to collapse it. We do not want to see it. What else? We want to see the purchase columns, don't we? Remember we set up that col group? Where's that col group? Here we go. So this entire col group is ID'd purchase cols. All of that we want to see. So purchase column, the visibility equals visible. We have to make sure to do the opposite in our standard and our base elements. So the purchase cols will say that they're collapsed. They're only for the purchase method. That's the visibility. This, we'll just comment that out. So we may as well set that now. Yeah, well, so we need to set the max, don't we? So how about we call this the purchase max? Purchase max, let's go up and create that as a global variable. The purchase max in the same way that we've got dice pool max and we've got dice pool total, we'll need something similar for this, won't we? So we'll need to keep track of how many they've currently spent, as well as the total they're allowed to spend, the maximum they're allowed to spend. So we'll call that purchase total. So the purchase max will equal 10, as given by our enum. Purchase 15 go ahead and copy that. 20, 20, pretty simple stuff. 25, 25. Great, let's test all that. We're testing our visibility here. So standard, classic, heroic, just a quick sanity check, make sure. Please select a value that is no longer, okay. Let's reload that. Yeah, so it's because when we click on purchase, it's setting some values. We'll fix that up later. So just a quick check, make sure these methods are working. Yep. Dice pool. Oh, yep. Purchase methods. So we're hoping to not see the dice column. That's good. This table looks good. The roll button's still there. I think I've done something wrong with hiding that. It's style. Just as we've got style visibility, it's style display that we want to. So it'll hide that there, and we'll need to input that style into the, here we go, the style. Good. Yeah, that's the roll button is disabled there. In the purchase methods, it's not there at all. Great. If we go back to them, yeah, it reappears. Looking good. So far the visibility is working out okay. Great. Okie dokie. So we've set our dice pool max. What's next? We should probably go ahead and create a purchase variable for each of the ability scores. Similar, I'll show you what I mean. Just as we've got, you know, the strength mod, dex mod, strength pool, dex pool, let's create one for each of the purchase. So strength purchase, dex purchase, con purchase, int purchase, whiz purchase, and char purchase. And we should go into the reset method. Reset method. Here we go. Dice pool total. So in a similar way that we've got this here, we'll have we'll reset them. Now what are they going to be reset to? Well, they all start at 10, don't they? According to the method description. In this method, all attributes start at a base of 10. So we could do that. Actually, I should probably do that. Now, because this is basically a constant, isn't it? This 10, as is this 3 here. It's good practice not to do what I'm doing here by putting hard coding in numbers here, because it's open to error. Like, what if I accidentally left one of these as something else? And this is a fairly trivial example, but it's usually good practice to pull these out into a constant. So let's do the right thing. This is going to be purchase total, isn't it? Purchase total, which will be 0 to begin with, right? Because we haven't spent any points. Right, so let's go and make that constant. So we've got these two enums which are constants. Let's put a couple here. So constant. Now what does that 3 equate to? It's kind of the pool minimum, isn't it? The number of dice you can, and that equals 3. And then we have the purchase base, I guess we could call it 10. So instead of using hard coding 3 inside our reset method, we can just do that. Pool min. It means if we ever have to update that pool min, like if Pathfinder changed the rules or whatever, we can simply do it and not have to worry about the rest of our code. Now the dice pool total is just the pool min times 6, isn't it? The pool min times 6, because there's 6 abilities. Now some might argue that this 6 we shouldn't hard code either, because Pathfinder in the future might update the number of abilities or something. So if you want to be pedantic, I guess we could, you can use this method, object key, I think it is. Object key, it's either key or keys, and then you put the, you know, that enum that we created, ability, it's got the 6, and we just grab its length, which I believe should be 6. Let's try that. So we're looking to see if dice pool total updates appropriately. It should be 18, shouldn't it? Let me open up my debug. Web developer, browser console. Object key is not, as I suspected. It might be keys. There we go, that's working. So yes, to get the length of our enum, or the way that we've set up enums anyway, so if you've got something set up in this way, you can just go object keys, the name of that constant ability, dot length. Okay, so that's fine. This is our purchase base, isn't it? Of course, this is all unnecessary. It's just to keep to good coding practice, I guess. Purchase total. Well, that'll always be 0, I suspect. We don't need to pull that out, I don't think. Good. Now, so we're resetting that. Ideally, what do we want to see? When we select to this method, we want to see this populated with 10, don't we? And we probably want to see this here too. We want to see these scores and their modifiers. So when they select this up and down, we want this to change in real time and the modifier to update in real time. So we could probably make a method that we can do that. What will we call that? So we've got the set the dice method, purchase method. How about set purchase abilities? Function set purchase abilities. Now all that does is update the UI in effect. So strength will equal the purchase. I foresee that people could select an incorrect value, so we should probably make a validation function. So for example, is function is purchase valid, or something like that. Now it just takes a score as a parameter, and we'll return. Now remember, it must be between 7 and 18. If it's between 7 and 18, that's valid. So there's a chance, I guess, it could be outside of that, possibly when the user uses the keyboard to input a value. So we don't want to show that if they do that. So return score is greater than or equal to 7, and score is less than or equal to 18. So is purchase valid? set purchase abilities. So we'll say that strength, so that means they've set our actual strength score will be, strength will equal, now is purchase valid for our strength purchase? Now if it is, then we'll update it. If it isn't, how about we just put a blank? Now we'll go ahead and duplicate that for each of the abilities. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. Charisma, hang on. Intelligence, constitution, and dexterity. Update the purchase variable. Dex, con, intelligence, and wisdom. Okay, so that'll be setting the actual abilities. Now we also need to update the modifiers, don't we? So that's the abilities. The modifiers. Now we've done this before. Oh, there we go. So in our role method, so we've got calculate the ability modifiers. So we want to do all that again. Because we're doing it again, it's best to put that into its own method. So let's cut that and make a method called calculate modifiers. So we've got this calculate mod method, which just calculates an individual mod. Now we're going to create a function that calculates all the modifiers. Just paste that in there. Calculate, so we're calling that from the role method. It'll calculate the modifiers, and we'll be calling it from our new purchase method, won't we? Set purchase. That's not what I want. Calculate modifiers. Great. Set purchase abilities. Now where do we want to call this from? Well, we want to call it when they set the method, when they select this purchase method, we want to immediately do that, don't we? Set the initial abilities, because remember reset is always called when they select a new method. So reset will reset all the purchase numbers to 10, and then we want to update the UI immediately. So that probably won't work because we haven't called update at that stage. Let's see what happens. Okie dokie. Oh yes, we've got to set these fields, don't we? Oh, hang on. As I suspected, it's update the UI. Probably the UI hasn't been updated at that stage. Update UI. Yeah, I see what I see what I've done wrong. Is valid purchase. If this is valid, then that is what we should be. outputting, not the initial dexterity or strength, because that would be blank. So yes, we're testing if the purchase is valid, then we want to allow it, we want to output it to screen. So that should work, I'd suspect. Yeah, looking good so far. This hasn't updated, but we can get to that. So we just need to go into our update UI method, and after here we need to do something similar to this, don't we? Update the purchase values, that'll do. So we'll have strength. We've already assigned these in our HTML, haven't we? Yep, there we go, strength purchase. And that'll equal strength purchase. And the same way, we update them. We also have a total, don't we? We have a total for this column. Update the purchase total. So this will show the user how many points they've spent. So we'll call this the, well, it's already named. I forget what I named it. Purchase total, I assume. No, I haven't created this. So we've got the pool total. And in a similar way, we'll have a purchase total. It'll be borderless, purchase total. Good. Now what do we want to display here? It'll be the purchase total variable, which is currently 0. And how about we show that followed by a slash, followed by the maximum, to make it very clear how many they've got. Let's try. Looking good. So you can see for each of these methods it's updating the maximum here. So they've spent 0 of 10, 0, 15, 0, 20, 0, 25, and all this is populated. So ideally what we want is when they click this, so we're getting an error because we haven't implemented that. We want this to update and change the modifier, and well, it's restricting itself to between 7 and 18 already. And we want these points to update as well. So looking good so far. So let's go ahead and update the change purchase. So remember, on input, we're going to change the purchase. So we'll go ahead and create that now, that function. So we've got change pool. I'd suggest that it's going to be very similar to this because we're both using the number input. So let's copy all of that. Yeah, it'll take an ability. Strength, I think we'll need a temp in the same way because the user could enter something with the keyboard, enter an invalid number. Oh, sorry, this is more to handle if they go over points. We don't want the UI to update that. So it'll prevent the user from going beyond our range. And that will start off with, yeah. Now, what do we want to do here? So when it's strength, we'll leave that out for the time being, that second part where we're trying to test whether it's a string, whether it's not a number or not. Let's just start with the basics first. So we need to pass an integer, and it'll be strength purchase. It's almost identical to what we've done with the pool. Yeah, so let's purchase. Let's not do that on each of these lines. Just temporarily, so we can work out this other stuff first. And then we'll be getting a purchase here, won't we? So we're getting our values, at least temporarily. Now find the temp purchase total. So temp purchase total. Just update all these. Okay. Yep. And only update if it doesn't exceed the max. So the temp, so this one, temp purchase total, if it's less than the purchase max, right? So that's set when we select the method. It'll be 10, 15, 20, or 25. Now the dice, so that'll be the purchase total. That's our global variable. Purchase total will equal our temp purchase total, and our strength purchase let's just comment that out. We don't want to do all that at the moment. Let's just test what we have here. Yeah, it's not updating because we haven't I just had a thought. This is not, we're adding the wrong thing here, aren't we? This purchase temp is the actual ability. We want to add the points, don't we? So we have to get the points for that ability. So we need to create a method to get those points. Remember, the points are defined in this table. So we need to somehow get, now how can we handle that? Well, we could hard code it, we could create an enum. I think what I'll do is just create a method where we input this as a parameter, as an argument, and it returns that. So we can call a method with this as the argument, and it will return that. It's probably the easiest way. So let's call that get purchase cost. Get purchase cost. So it's the points we're interested in here, not the actual ability. Get purchase cost. Okay, so we're getting the purchase cost for our strength, dex, con, int, whiz, char. Okay, so create that function get purchase cost. Now it takes a score, does it not? So we can switch that score and case, remembering that the minimum we'll want is 7. So case of 7 will return -4. That's the points. There are, how many of these? 12, aren't there? Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. As I said, we probably have to have a case for each one of these because the pattern's not clear. It kind of follows this strange sort of pattern. So it's probably just easier to hard code it. 11 is 1, isn't it? 12 is 2. That's 3. I think I remember this now. It goes up by a step of 2, another step of 2, and then it goes up to a step of 3, and then finally a step of 4. Now, of course, somebody could put in any integer for this, couldn't they? So we should put a default value, or they could put any value. They could put a blank value. So how about in the default case, we'll just return, say, 0. We'll have to test that. I'm not quite sure what we should put there, but we'll put 0 to begin with. So it means if they put, say, a letter A into this, then it'll just return 0. It won't throw an error or anything. Okay. Now back to our find the temp purchase total. Yep, we've done that. So that should be fine. We don't need this really. See those ones that I've commented out? We don't really need them because this get purchase cost is innately doing validation because it's between 7 and 18, and if it isn't, it'll return 0. So that'll be fine. It's sanitizing the input, I should say. So remove all that. We don't need that. Getting the total. Only update if total doesn't exceed the max. So if temp purchase total is less than the purchase max, we want to set the purchase total of that, and the strength purchase, no, the strength, we want to set the strength, don't we? Excuse me, we want to set the purchase, don't we? The strength purchase, yeah. So the strength purchase will equal the strength purchase temp. Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything like this. Let's test it. Get rid of all this. That's not what I wanted. Roll button? No. What we do want to do is update the purchase abilities. Remember, we want it to do it in real time if they. So we've got a method for that. Set purchase abilities, which just reminding us what it does. Set purchase abilities. All it does is set our actual abilities. It does validation, remember? And if it's not valid, meaning if it's not between 7 and 18, it'll output a blank string. So that should do all our validation and sanitation. Sanitize our inputs. Yes, update the purchase abilities and update the UI. Let's try. Okay. Looking good so far. Yep. So can you see that it's updating the strength in real time? The modifier is being updated in real time. And the points, here we go. 7 is worth -4. 8 is worth -2, that's correct. 9 is worth -1. 10 is worth 0. 11 is worth 1. 2, 3, 5, that's right, for 14. 7 for 15. 10 for 16. Let's bump these points up a bit. 10 for 16, 17 is worth 13, and 18 is worth 17. Now what happens when we reach our max? Yeah, it doesn't let us go beyond it, but we can go below it. Yeah, see, it's not letting me go from 13 to 14 because the jump between 13 and 14 requires 2 points, and I don't have 2 points available. So our function is operating well. Now the only thing I want to test here is what happens when we put a blank. I see. I'm trying to type in, so I can type in 10. Yeah, so if it's invalid, so if it's less than 7, it just doesn't do anything, which is good. And when it goes above 7, it starts doing something. So if I type in, say, 19, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't update, which is exactly what we want. You can't, it's an invalid response. We can't go down to 18 because we don't have enough points, but just say we did have enough points. Yep, we can go to 18, which is worth a hefty 17 points, remember? Okay, I think that's behaving well. So we can assign points as we see fit. Now, just to make sure that it's recognizing when we get to our, well, it's recognizing that we're getting to our maximum, what should happen? Well, ideally, once they've assigned their ability scores, we should show the next section of the character generation, shouldn't we? So how about we put in a temporary form for the next section. So we'll quickly look at the getting started method. Sorry, the getting started. Look at the Pathfinder rules. So step 1 is determine ability scores. We've pretty much done that. Step 2 will be pick your race. So let's just set up a blank form for race. So down in our HTML, let's create a new form. Give it a field set, the same way that we've done here. That just means it'll, what's the term? It'll outline the section. And it requires a legend. That's just the title in effect. So race, legend, and we'll just put something in there. Choose your race. That'll do. Now remembering that this will, we'll have to give this an ID, won't we? ID form, let's call it race form. This will always show currently, won't it? Yep. Now we don't want that there. We only want that there after they've made a role, after these are all populated, don't we? And in the case of our purchase method, when they've assigned all their points. So as soon as we get to 15, so at 14 that shouldn't be showing. At 15 out of 15 that should show. But if we go to take it off again, it should hide again. We shouldn't be allowed to do the next section until we've completed the ability score section. That should be simple enough. We've got a ID. So when do we want to hide this thing? Well, it's hidden by default, isn't it? So let's set its default here. So we can just put in a style tag, style property, display, none, right? Make sure that's working. Yeah, so it's not going to show at all until we call it. Okie dokie. Where will we want to show it? Well, after a role, don't we? So any of those role methods will, where's the role? Role dice pool, role classic, role. Output the result. Show the race form. So document get element by ID race form. Now it's style display was it? Yep. Equals inline is the default. Let's just make sure that works. So this is just for our role methods. Just this recipe, whatever. So for any of our role methods, so that's dice pools and classic, let's try it. Yep, there's our race form. Now it should be hiding when we switch, shouldn't it? It should be hiding that. So we'll, in our reset method, I'll just copy that. In our reset method, hide other forms. Race form style display equals none. Let's test that. So for heroic, say we roll. Yep, there's our race. Choose your race. Doesn't stop you from continuing to roll, but once this is populated, this will show. If we change method back to classic, yep, the race form's no longer there until we roll. As with standard, and just do a quick check on dice pool. Yep, there it is. Great. Now for purchase, we'll do 10. When we use all our points, yes, so we have to do a check in for purchase. So for change, this is it, isn't it? Change purchase. Update the purchase abilities. Show the next section. Show the next section. Now, what's the condition for that? Well, we need to, when the purchase total is equal to the purchase max, isn't it? Purchase total equals purchase max. So when the purchase total equals the purchase max, then we want to show the race form, don't we? Now if that doesn't equal that, we want to hide the race form, don't we? Hide the race form. hide the race form? None. Okay. I foresee a problem here. I'm thinking we can probably get to this. We can get to this condition without actually doing the correct thing. Let's try it. Let's make sure these are working first. Yep. When we change to a new method. Yep. Let's get to the total. Yeah, that's working. Now if we go under that, it hides. So it's working well so far. But what if I have, so we've got the total there and I delete this, for example. Yeah, it's still there, but that's not valid. So we have to do some testing on each of these. Pretty simple. We've already got a method, I think. Is purchase valid? So it has to be between 7 and, let's go see what that does. Is purchase valid? Yeah, the score has to be between 7 and 18. If it's anything else, if it's an A or blank or anything else, it won't be valid. So for strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So charisma, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So all of those must be valid before this is allowed, before the next section will show. Let's test it. That's showing. Purchase 10. Yeah, now what if we go ahead and, yes, good. So we put a 10 back in there, that's fine. So even though the points are still correct, this is not a valid set of stats. So it'll only do it when they select a valid set of stats and they spend all their points. Great. Make sure it works for all of them. Yep, so intelligence is working. How about wisdom? Anyway, you can go ahead and test all this. I'm pretty sure it's working. Great. And I think we are done. Let's just quickly try purchase 20, for example. So you could get 15, 14. 14 gives you +2. So we get a couple +2s, +2, +2. That's a total +8. What if we were to dump all our points into a single? So let's try the maximum purchase method. So this is meant to be epic fantasy. Let's see how high we can get. What if we just spread it all out first? So 12, 12, 12, 12. Because 12s, can you see that these are cheaper down at the lower ends? But as you go up, the step goes up. So 14 is a lot more expensive than 13. Okay, so all 12s gives us +6. What if we go to 14s? Can't get to a, oh yes we can. So it looks like we can get to about +10 using, if we spread it out to the lower numbers. Now what if we tried to focus on a couple of key statistics? I'll just reset this. So just so we want high strength, an 18, and then we want high dexterity. Yeah, so if you kind of focus on a couple of statistics, you lose out. Well, you're better at that particular area, but you're fairly average the rest. What if we tried to lower some of these? You get 4 points for lowering them. Just say we want high intelligence. Yeah, you're kind of hurting yourself there unless you really don't need these. So it looks like you're better off spreading it out if you want to get the maximum modifier total. But otherwise, I think we're good. I think this is working, this method. Of course, you can do lots more testing to make sure it's working, and there'll probably be some small issues with it, but generally I think it's working. Okay, then we'll finish there. Hopefully I'll be able to continue this character generator, and we'll get started with race in the next tutorial. Great, thank you.